Technology has transformed almost every part of our lives, but some of its most surprising stories sound far too strange to be true. From a real moth causing a computer problem, to a webcam created just to watch a coffee pot, and even a wireless technology for a Viking king. In this video, we're uncovering 7 incredible technology facts that sound completely made up, but are actually 100% true. Today, when a computer program stops working properly, we often say it has a bug. But one of the most famous bugs in computing history was not a coding mistake. It was an actual moth. In 1947, engineers were working on the Harvard Mark II, an enormous early electromechanical computer made from thousands of switches, relays, and wires. When the machine suddenly began behaving incorrectly, the team started searching for the cause. Eventually, they discovered a moth trapped between the contacts of one of the electrical relays. The insect was preventing the mechanism from working properly. The engineers carefully removed the moth and taped it into their logbook. Beside it, they wrote that it was the first actual case of a bug being found. The word bug had already been used to describe technical problems before this happened. But the moth made the expression famous in the world of computing. The process of finding and fixing computer problems is still called debugging today. So whenever a modern phone, game, or computer program develops a bug, it connects back to one of technology's strangest stories. A computer bug once being a real moth sounds completely made up. But it really happened. Did you know the first webcam was invented just to watch a coffee pot? It sounds ridiculous, but it's completely true. Back in the early 1990s, researchers at the University of Cambridge were getting annoyed. Their coffee machine was in a different room, and people kept making the trip only to find the pot empty. So instead of wasting time walking back and forth, they came up with a clever solution. They pointed a camera at the coffee pot and connected it to their computer network. This allowed people in the building to check whether coffee was available before leaving their desks. That simple live image became one of the earliest webcam systems ever created. Later, it was connected to the internet, and people around the world could watch the coffee pot in real time. What started as a simple office solution became a small piece of internet history. It's funny to think that one of the world's earliest webcams wasn't created for security, science, or anything serious. It was created so people could check whether there was any coffee left. The first webcam being invented to watch a coffee pot sounds fake, but it's absolutely true. Bluetooth is used every day to connect phones, headphones, speakers, cars, and countless other devices. But its name did not come from computers or wireless technology. It came from a Viking king. Harald Bluetooth Gormson ruled Denmark during the 10th century and is remembered for helping unite different parts of Scandinavia. Hundreds of years later, engineers were developing a new wireless system that would allow devices made by different companies to communicate with each other. They needed a temporary name for the project. Because the technology was designed to unite different devices, they chose Bluetooth, inspired by the king who had united different groups of people. The name was originally only supposed to be used during development, but it became so popular that it was eventually kept as the official name. Even the Bluetooth logo has a Viking connection. It combines the ancient runic symbols representing the letters H and B, the initials of Harald Bluetooth. So every time you connect wireless headphones or send something between devices, you are using technology after a Viking king who lived more than 1,000 years ago. Bluetooth being named after a Viking sounds completely made up. But it is absolutely true. When most people hear the name Nintendo, they think of video games. Mario, Zelda, Pokémon, and consoles like the Nintendo Switch. But Nintendo existed long before video games were even possible. The company began in Kyoto, Japan, in 1889. Its founder, Fusajiro Yamauchi, started the business by producing handmade Japanese playing cards called hanafuda. These cards were decorated with colorful pictures of flowers, animals, and traditional scenes. They became popular, and Nintendo gradually grew into one of Japan's best-known card manufacturers. For decades, the company had nothing to do with the electronic entertainment. It experimented with different products and businesses before eventually moving into toys and games. During the 20th century, Nintendo began producing electronic toys and arcade machines. Then, in the 1970s and 1980s, it entered the video game industry and started creating the characters and consoles that would make it famous around the world. So a company known today for advanced gaming technology actually began more than 130 years ago with small packs of handmade cards. Nintendo starting as a playing card company in 1889 sounds completely unexpected. But it is absolutely true. Today, text messages are something most people send every single day. Quick replies, reminders, group chats, delivery updates, and endless conversations all happen through messages on our phones. But the very first text message was surprisingly simple. It did not say anything technical, complicated, or futuristic. It said, "Merry Christmas." The message was sent in December 1992 by a British engineer named Neil Papworth. At the time, mobile phones did not even have proper keyboards for typing messages. So the first text was actually typed on a computer and sent to a mobile phone. The phone belonged to Richard Jarvis, who worked for Vodafone. That short festive message helped mark the beginning of something that would completely change the way people communicate. Before smartphones, social media, and instant messaging apps, SMS became one of the fastest and most popular ways to stay in touch. People used it to send short updates, make plans, and speak to each other without needing to call. It is strange to think that one of the biggest changes in modern communication began with just a festive words. The first ever text message saying Merry Christmas sounds like a random story. But it is absolutely true. Most people use the words internet and web as though they mean exactly the same thing. But they are actually different technologies. And surprisingly, email existed long before the World Wide Web was invented. In 1971, computer engineer Ray Tomlinson developed a way to send messages between computers connected through ARPANET, an early network that helped lead to today's internet. Before this, electronic messages could usually only be left for another person using the same computer. Tomlinson's system allowed a message to travel from one computer to another. He also chose the @ symbol to separate a person's username from the computer receiving the message. That simple decision created the basic email address format we still use today. The World Wide Web did not arrive until much later. Tim Berners-Lee proposed it while working at CERN in 1989, and by the end of 1990, the first web server and browser were running. This means people were sending network emails almost a decade before websites became available. So email was not created as part of the web. It was already traveling across computer networks years before anyone could open a web page in a browser. Email existing before the World Wide Web sounds completely backwards. But it is absolutely true. Today, The internet contains billions of websites. They include social media platforms, online shops, news pages, video services, games, and almost anything else you can imagine. But the very first website was much simpler. It was created by British computer scientist Tim Berners-Lee while he was working at CERN in Switzerland. Berners-Lee developed the World Wide Web as a way for researchers to share and access information more easily across different computers. The first website went online in 1991. It explained what the World Wide Web was, how people could create web pages, and how they could set up their own web servers. There were no videos, colorful animations, social media buttons, or complicated designs. It was mainly plain text with links leading to more information. What makes the story even more incredible is that a restored version of this original website can still be visited today. It has been preserved so people can see what the beginning of the World Wide Web actually looked like. From that extremely basic page grew the enormous online world used by billions of people every day. The first website still being available more than 30 years later sounds unbelievable. But it is absolutely true.